I mean, he doesn't have any head coaching experience, so I mean, so that is, a possible concern. I mean, me as a Michigan fan, I love Mike Hart. He's one of my favorite Michigan players of all time. One of them. Um, Went through a very scary situation health wise this year at Indiana. So hopefully he's gotten that figured out, and and that's behind him. Not for his coaching career, but for his life. Uh, I think culturally, he makes a lot of sense. He is a Michigan man, if that's what you care about. He's a running back, so I'm sure he values, the good old fashioned physical football. Um, he was definitely he's been well respected at two stops as a coach. He was very well respected at Indiana under Tom Allen. He's been very well respected here in Michigan. I mean, his running backs, Corum, Dalvin Evers, they all love him. They all love him. So he'll have the respect of the players. So internally, um, I like it. Um, but it could be a potential slow start for him. I can foresee, I can compare him to, and it's a little bit different because this guy didn't have the alma mater experience that at this particular school, um and all those things. But think about how Notre Dame started with Marcus Freeman. Kind of got off to a slower start, right? As it seemed like Marcus was trying to find his way. He was there the previous year, so the players knew him, well respected by the players. But it was an adjustment. It took them a while to kind of find their footing before they were able to uh, definitely playing a lot better football down the end of the second half of the year. So um, it's possible that Mike Hart, if he did take over, if Jim left, that it can have a rocky start, and we know how that went. A lot of people were on Marcus Freeman's case, especially after that loss to Marshall. So that could get rocky because fans get impatient. Hello, me being one of them. But do I think it's a bad idea? I don't. But it definitely has a pretty good amount of risk with it.
Yeah, I I love Mike Hart, and I think he is doing a terrific job here. I think he did a terrific job at Indiana, but and for as close as I think he probably was working with Jim and seeing what it entails as a head coach, I mean, to not even have coordinator experience, I just not at Michigan. Like there's just too much riding on you being the head coach and being successful. I wouldn't. We gotta get OC or something before we can get to a point of being the head coach at Michigan. But it's not a slight to him, but it's just that's me. If
That's a
I
lot of
if I am making the
responsibility.
decision,
That's a
yeah,
lot of responsibility to go from a running backs coach to um, being a head coach of a unit, of a football team. It's a little bit different. Um, as opposed to if it's a lot different if you're a coordinator. At least you're responsible for at least one half of the team, right? One half of how a team does it. You're involved in game planning, right? In execution, um, problem solving, right? It's a lot more responsibility, even being a coordinator. And even then, it's still a big jump from being a coordinator to a head coach, and not a lot of coaches can do that jump, right? So I think that would just be asking a lot for him to jump from running backs coach to there. But down the line, um, I wouldn't mind. That wouldn't be something that I'll be against. I could see Mark Hart having one of those situations where he left Michigan to probably get kind of cut his teeth somewhere as a coordinator, or possibly maybe a head coach at a MAC school, or somewhere else, kind of cut his teeth a little bit, and then coming back to Michigan at some point in the future, 10, 20 years from now, whatever it is. Then I think he'll be a one of those home run type hires potentially based on how he does. But as of now, it's way too premature. Way too premature.
yeah. I agree.
I don't love anybody internally, to be quite frank with you. I even though I know that it's best to keep someone internally because you want to keep that cohesiveness, and to keep the culture that's there already already. But you know, experience matters, man. And I just, especially in college, NFL, to me, the NFL, there's nowhere near as much hand holding, because you're dealing with professionals. So NFL is really more of, I think head coaches in NFL and college have very different jobs, right?
Hmm.
And I think it's easier for a younger guy a quote unquote inexperienced guy in terms of a lot of coordinator head coaching experience to jump to be a head coach because they can insulate them. For one, it's not much as day to day mundane shit, things you have to deal with, and it is really singular focused, really on a week to week basis, right? You know, who's handling player acquisition and changes? That's the GM, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
you're literally singly focused on a week to week basis on their opponent, right? So I think it's easier, and you can also insulate yourself with staffing that can help you with that. As opposed to college, it's a lot more to me that's on your plate, especially on a day to day basis. So that's where I'm really not feeling, anybody who's inexperienced.
Yeah. And if I'm Tepper, I mean, I don't know, man. The like his resume is his resume. That you're not going to change. What his numbers show, but the 49ers weren't upset that he left. Like you know what I mean? Like he's got that tendency to there's a 4-year window where it's like, all right, man, like this is cool. Like think about that. Like his first 3 years they go to the NFC Championship, Super Bowl, and NFC Championship, and you gladly let that coach go. Like you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be in a hurry to
Well,
hire Jim Harbaugh.
he's
I,
not
I
doing a
think he's
great job. That
successful.
coach is doing a great job in Washington right now, but that's a topic for another day.
Well, you said the coach in Washington.
Were you referring to Ron Rivera?
No, I was referring to Carolina Panthers.
Oh, okay. I'm
I
sorry.
having
I'm
the
sorry.
conversation with Jim. It
Yeah.
just and maybe
Well,
York's got some culpability in that relationship and all that good stuff, but I don't know, man. And also, it's been a long time since he's coached in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's been a long time
It's
since
a
he's
different
coached there.
game now. It's a
It
different
is.
game. It's especially from a head coaching standpoint. It's a younger man's game, man. I mean, I'm sure if you did like the average age of most new NFL hires, especially the last 3 or 4 years, it's probably going to be closer to around 36, 38 years old. Most of them are under their 40s, it seems like, or around 40. Jim's almost 60. He's 59. And I'm not trying to go in terms like a whole age discrimination thing, but I'm talking about in terms of ideas, um, uh, being fresh into it's a younger man's game. It just is what it is. And not saying that teams would purposely omit him because of his age, but I think number one, it'll be his style, right? It's just not conducive to what you see that where the game is going, right? So, um, man, yeah, GOJ Urban found out the hard way.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
Urban is not
now
like
he's a totally different guy,
remove him
totally
out of
different
this whole.
reasons,
Yeah, he
right? But
was a
I'm just
nightmare.
saying that it can be, especially as far removed as he is. What was his last year? 2014.
14, I think.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
first year in Michigan was 15. I mean, the game's changed a lot in 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
9 years now going on. So, um, I think owners and GMs recognize that, um, and he'll get a call just from a respect standpoint, and he's a name, but I think for a guy like David Tepper, that's part of the intrigue, right? He's a name. He's a name to bring some credibility in terms of a new hire. But their biggest problem is not to me. I mean, I think Still Wilkes has done a really good job, and I know it's not NFL channel, but I think their biggest problem is quarterback. And that's just it. But whatever. We'll see, guys. I see some of you saying that we're always negative. I'm used to it.
Whatever.
We can't make you all
Whatever.
happy, guys. If you think we're always negative, but you're not listening to the words that we're saying,
That's fine. You can
um,
think I'm negative. I don't care. That's fine.
you're not
I'm willing to
negative,
talk
buddy.
about your
You're not
quarterback throwing
negative.
two
You're
pick
not
sixes.
negative. Don't worry about
Sorry.
it. Don't,
That's
you're
life.
not negative, buddy. You're not. No, we're not negative. We
If
try to
CJ
give a.
Stroud threw two pick sixes, our
He's
channel
getting
would be
hammered,
people would be jumping all over
trolling,
him. Exactly.
trolling, calling him
So
trash, calling him
because he's your guy
overrated.
doesn't mean he's above reproach.
If CJ had that kind of performance, our fan base would be calling him overrated, trash. He lost draft stock. Uh, he got exposed. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It'll be all these
Yes.
things thrown at him. But
Yes.
because it's JJ, it's like, oh, well, coaching staff failed him. Oh, well, he's just inexperienced. Oh, well, he did this in the second half. It's like, yeah, I mean, the good
A pick
goes with the
six is in
bad.
that second half too. There's
Yeah,
one in
yes,
he
yes.
was very balanced.
Critically, when
One in
you were
each
on
half.
your way back,
Yep.
into that game, it all goes hand in hand. And just because someone does things well in the game doesn't mean you omit the bad, right? It goes hand in hand. And best believe when the bad is I'll say this one last time. When the bad is directly, it results in direct points for the other team. That's not just bad. That's catastrophic. Okay, it's not like he had like, oh, well, he just had a bad passing percentage. He was 22 for 40, like Max Duggan was at a certain point, or something like that, right? He was just, and if he missed some throws, no, he wasn't just missing throws. He was throwing it to the other team that was turning into points. Okay, guys, like that's catastrophic. All
It
right, and
is.
it's okay to say for one day, one game, he played bad. He did some things well. And you could say someone played bad and they still think did some things well in the game, right? But overall, when you kind of weigh it all out, you hurt your team to me more than you helped them, right? You put them in a hole. And then as they were coming out that hole and you were a big part of that, you did something in the second half to put them back in another hole, right? And it was not all your fault defensively. It was a total breakdown. But it's okay to admit those things and say, you know what? The kid has to get better. I think he can't get better, and he will need to get better if that's not going to repeat itself. And I'll leave it there.